so what we're doing, we ask a lot more identifying and qualifying questions because they don't have anywhere to go. If they're an empty nester, if their children are no longer in the school system, are they getting ready to retire? I feel like that's a very broad answer to your question, because if you go a little bit more deeper, there is going to be a second part to that question where you can actually be of service. And then presenting different facts and figures to them, because it's not always money driven. If somebody else can assume their mortgage in a transfer, that's something that we've been working a lot of people with. I just feel like you have to ask better questions.
Hi, I'm Noelle with today's Brew, where top producing real estate agents share their tips and tricks on taking more listings, making more money, and having fun doing it. On today's episode, we welcome Rich Adamski from New Jersey. So thanks for coming on today. Tell us about the Jersey Shore market.
So here in New Jersey, the market takes a little bit to catch up to, I guess, North America, we'll say in general. Being in the metro market between New York and New Jersey and Connecticut, we're always last to kind of feel the vibration of what goes on in the marketplace. Mm-hmm. So we're actually pretty strong, here going into August. Market's still very strong. Multiple offers are still on multiple properties, dependable where you are. So if you're more in we'll say the urban markets where we are, it's definitely changing over, and it's still changing over, under a 30-day market period.
Wonderful. What about inventory? What's that looking like for you?
It depends. If you're in a line where you can straight shot into New York, whether that's be a train or that's a bus line, those markets are very low, believe it or not. We're probably at an absorption rate like less than a month, believe it or not. So it's actually pretty quick. And if you go into the suburbs a little bit more, where you have to drive to the train or to the bus station, they're probably at about like a 42, 44 days on market over there, which is still rather good if you really look at it.
Yeah, no, here in my market in Virginia Beach, we're looking at like about just a little over 2 months inventory supply. So it's tough out there. What are you saying to people on the phone who push back when you're making your calls to list their home and they're like, well, there's nowhere to move, there's nothing on the market? How are you handling that rejection?
So, what I've been training myself, my team is, yes, we should be learning the objections, but it's actually asking more questions in detail to learn from the actual person. What is that exact fear? Is it exactly the inventory shortage of what they're looking to do, right? Because if we can present them, hey, listen, are you looking to stay in the state? Or are you looking to leave the state? Is a very important question we ask, because if they're looking to stay within the state, then we can go and identify certain areas, or certain pockets that still haven't been appreciated within the New Jersey market. So if they don't need the access to New York, or they don't need the access to Philadelphia, then we can kind of say, hey, listen, let's look at a 10% lower inventory. Let's get you into an area that has not appreciated. So we'll be able to sell you at a 20 to 30% appreciation, which we've seen over the last 2-3 years. And so what we're doing, we ask a lot more identifying and qualifying questions, because it's not they don't have anywhere to go. It's if they're an empty nester, if their children are no longer in the school system, are they getting ready to retire? I feel like that's a very broad answer to your question, because if you go a little bit more deeper, there is going to be a second part to that question where you can actually be of service. And then, presenting different facts and figures to them, because it's not always money driven, but, if somebody else can assume their mortgage in a transfer, that's something that we've been working a lot of people with. I just feel like you have to ask better questions.
Yeah. Yeah. And so these questions, are these things that you are working off of scripts? Are you a script user?
Script dialogues, 100%. There's so many coaching companies that are out there. I've been bred from one of them, and I've been successfully had a coach now going on 12 years. So I do always suggest having a coach, because they're the ones who are actually listening to my recordings, and then from the recordings they're actually training me, and then I'm just learning the way to say, because When you're talking on the phone, which is how I get all my business, I'm not out there social media. I'm not out there, with a huge presence. I'm more of my database, my sphere, and just prospecting, expires for sale by no circle prospecting. So it's the tone, it's how you speak to people, it's learning the actual scripts. Because whether you're on a expired campaign that you're calling or a for sale by that you're calling, you have to be able to ask questions. And the main thing that I can probably say is wait for the answer, because so many of us are looking at the next question to just get it out there, just to say, hey, listen, I went through 5 or 6 questions and they're not interested. But once again, did you stop and listen? Is where it is. So I do work off of scripts 100% of the time.
So you mentioned coaching for 12 years. That's pretty fantastic. How long have you been in real estate?
I've been in real estate. We're going on 2011. So what does that make us? 13 years, almost 14 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So what were you doing prior to real estate?
Ironically, I worked on Wall Street. So I did something totally different in the city. I was a financial analyst for a company in New York as well for about a year and a half. So about almost 3 years, I did something prior to until I realized I wanted to get into real estate.
Okay. So you got in 2011, and you pretty much have had a coach the whole time, maybe less 2 years, maybe?
Yeah, correct. I mean, the coach in the beginning was my mentor, which was my broker at that time. And then I realized very quickly I need to move off of that and get somebody who's going to be dedicated to your business.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about what coaching can do for you. Let's talk about your numbers in your business. How many transactions are you on schedule to close this year?
Right now, we're on schedule to close 72 transactions myself personally.
Awesome. Awesome. I interviewed another agent in New Jersey last week, and at the end of the interview, I asked him to recommend any agents that have been influential or that he thought would be an asset to this show. And you were the number 1 person on the list. So congratulations to you that you have that rapport with people. And let's talk a little bit more about rapport. Skills versus rapport on a listing appointment. Which one's more important? Are they equally as important, or what do you think?
Well, if you're going to ask me, I think the way you build rapport about anybody that you're speaking to on the phone or actually in person is by asking qualifying questions once again. So I don't think that you have to walk around, tour around, and praise them on like, hey, listen, like I see that you have golf clubs in the garage. Are you a golfer? And talk 20 minutes about golfing. I don't believe that's how you build rapport. I believe you build rapport by being a professional once you walk into the property and understanding that you're there for a particular reason. And that reason is to list that property or identify you as the professional realtor if you're going to be taking that listing or not. Because at the end of the day, you want somebody who's ready, willing, and able that's going to sign a contract when you get the right price, and that they're not going to be listing the property for greed. They're going to be listing the property for an actual answer. So the way that you go on a listing presentation is by asking questions. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, thank you for having me out to your property today. And, really quickly, can I tour your property? And this is where a lot of agents now take the time to try to build what they call rapport. Listen, I'm not saying walk into a property and say, hey, listen, you know what? Like, I see that you're a Giants fan. Or I see that you're a Cleveland, Ohio's fan. Maybe you're going to say something. Hey, like, I see that you're a Giants fan. Have you gone to any games last year or this year if you're in there? Maybe you might say 1 or 2 questions like that, but you're not going to build that off of where it is. And then you're going to turn around and you're going to be like, okay, well, listen, at the end of the day, we're here to present to you. So let me take a tour in the eyes of the buyer and be able to show, the best light where I'm going to be working. Then you take a tour, bring it back down to seat. And then, I take out a piece of paper that's actually my script. And I kid you not, I read it verbatim off of this script. I am not scared to have a piece of paper in my hand because I say I wrote down some questions. You mind if we go over it? And I go through that script. And I kid you not one time in my career has anybody ever said, why are you reading off a piece of paper? So that is my personal opinion on building rapport, going through a script.
That's what my coach just recently said too. He was like, print it all out. And he's like, and then you just say, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, do I have your permission to review some notes with you that we spoke about, the day before? And I'm like, oh, I never thought about that.
You learn something new every day. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm only 5 years in, so I have lots to learn. And what's wild about real estate is you could be 12 or 15 years in and never come across a certain situation until that one specific transaction. And I want to kind of go back into prospecting a little bit for other people that maybe missed my interview last week, talking about phone warriors, and maybe won't see that interview. Let's talk about it on your side too. Let's hear how you started this organization and how beneficial it can be.
So I appreciate that. So Phone Warriors was created when my partner and I, Dean Clark, about 4 years ago, we got together where it was like, hey, listen, I'm bored prospecting by myself. It's lonely over here. What are you doing? Hey, I'm prospecting today between 8:12, 8 and 11, whatever it might have been, right? Mm-hmm. So we're like, well, why don't we just put together a Zoom, just you and I together on here, and I'll listen to you, you'll listen to me. And you know what, when we're waiting for somebody to pick up, maybe we might have a side conversation and make this time go by. Yeah. We realized very quickly that we were onto something, because we're like, wait, like now I feel like you're in the room with me. These 3 or 4 hours went by rather quickly. So then what we actually did was we posted out onto the Might Vary network, and we found 1 or 2 more people that were like-minded. And then we stayed in this group, just us. It was 4 people, and then it went down to 3, and then we were just 3 people for a very long time. Really? Fact check now where we are, when we opened it up to tons of people, we're about, I think as of today, we're about almost 1,500 members into the Phone Warriors. We have anywhere between the West Coast and the East Coast at any given time, roughly about 20 people prospecting with us at a time. When the West Coast does kick on, we get that about close to 40, believe it or not. Wow. So it's actually very fun. And what Phone Warriors is just a community to bring people who are maybe scared to be on the phones, don't know exactly what to say. So you're just an innocent spectator. Or number 3, you want to get better. So you don't want to role play and practice. Okay, that's fine. Then you know what? Start making phone calls in front of us. And guess what? There's going to be somebody. Like this morning, I heard somebody coaching somebody else. And it was just something like the way their tonality was. So they were like, hey, listen, I would say like this, and you're going to get a better response from XYZ. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I just remember thinking like, hey, tonality. And that's great that somebody actually corrected. So, what Phone Warriors is just a prospecting community where it's a free Zoom, it's a free Facebook group. And believe it or not, there's a lot of referrals getting tossed around left and right in the community too, because the people move from Jersey down south. So we find agents down there. And once again, there's people from the West Coast to the East Coast. So it's actually very, very fun. And, that's what it is in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, I love it. I have been invited and I have signed in. So I have started since going to the same conference that you were at a couple weeks ago. I rewrote my goals and business plan for the rest of the year, because I definitely wasn't on track. So Mike had good advice on maybe rewriting it if you weren't where you were, to make it more obtainable. And I was like, okay. When I was handing in to my coach, I was like, I really took a lot of time and effort thinking about it, because I didn't want to say I was going to do something that I wasn't going to do. And I feel like the stars have just aligned, having met yourself and Dean and Elle and so many other agents, and then Phone Warriors. I'm like, okay, these are all signs. These are all little gifts. So you need to take it and run with it. And it's awesome. So awesome that you guys have created that area, because that is my problem, is called reluctancy. Like I'm scared to get on the phone sometimes. And I don't know why. I mean, I have a show where I talk to people for a living, which I still don't know how I landed here, but I'm like, okay, but I'm going to mute myself. So we all have to know that the shy people have to know that they can mute themselves on Phone Warriors.
Yeah, you could. I mean, you could definitely mute yourself, but the goal is to hear, right? We're not here to, anybody on that group is not here to badger you. It's not here to make you feel ashamed. It's just to make you better, right?
Yeah.
And how do you get better is at the end of the day is all that rejection, right? Whether it's rejection that you're hearing from other consumers and prospects, or it's the rejection that you're getting internally from yourself, right? It's actually like you said, like you have that fear of the phone, right? So like, that saying says like as the day goes on, the phone gets heavier, right? So you have to put yourself on a schedule, and putting yourself on a schedule and make that first phone call of the day. And that first phone call of the day for somebody that's in your position where a lot of people feel the same way, it should be a happy call. So it should be a call to your past client, or it should be a call to, I mean, in my personal opinion, it could be a call to somebody in your database that you like, one of your best friends, or you have a group of 10 people, and you continue to make that call, get the jitters out, and be like, all right, now I'm ready to go. Or believe it or not, what worked for me when I was coming up was I would role play. I would get that win in the beginning, and then I'll go straight from my role play right into prospecting, and I would take the high from there.
Yeah, no, I love it. And you're doing great numbers. So on track for 72 transactions yourself. Do you have an assistant who helps you out on a daily basis with activities that are not prospecting?
Yeah, so I don't do anything respectively into a transaction. So I do have an admin. I have two transactional coordinators, and then I have somebody specifically that kind of overviews all of them in a nutshell, and then brings me the exact question. So my job all day is literally from the moment I get into the office, which is about 8:10. I'm on the phones by about 8:15. I go to 12:15 on my prospecting schedule. It's uninterrupted. My staff handles everything. As soon as I get off of that, I typically normally eat. And then at 1:00 is when I normally reach out to the staff, see exactly what's going on with the files. I spend 5 to 10 minutes. They'll tell me how many offers came in. I call the sellers, either present them the offer. If I'm not presenting the offer, telling them exactly what to do. If there's a hiccup, and then I just move on with my day from there. So
Nice.
I'm literally not involved in a single transaction unless it's really the house. It has to be literally burning down.
I was
For
going
me.
to say, yeah, 911. Yeah.
And it's very good, and that's something that when I went to the new coaching company back, roughly 9-10 years ago, that's what they trained me on, and then that's kind of what I built. Because listen, if there's an issue at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., 10 a.m., that issue is either going to get resolved by somebody else who's not you, or you're going to be the one that has to resolve it later on in the day. But guess what? It's the same issue, whether it's at 8 a.m. or it's at 1 p.m. It's just that somebody might be mad at you that you're not answering your phone. But hey, listen, my voicemail specifically says, I'm not answering any calls till after 12:15.
Hey, and yeah, you're right. 12:15 is not late in the day. It's not 5 p.m.
Exactly. It's not 5 p.m. at all.
So delegating these extra duties to an assistant, what did that do for your business? How far did it advance it? Like, was that something that you did when you were already kind of struggling and like, oh man, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed with my daily tasks? Or did you think, I want to grow my business and I'm going to go ahead and hire an assistant now so that I'm prepared?
It was, I want to say I was probably 4 or 5 years into the business before I entertained that idea of getting an assistant. So I know that, back, when I first came into coaching, they always prepped it. Hey, listen, once you get to like 30 deals or so, you should get an assistant. I was very reluctant to do that. The only reason why I was reluctant is because I didn't want to put an extra financial burden onto myself. Yeah. So that was the real answer why I kind of held off onto it. I didn't want to put what I had to do for my career, closing deals and making transactions. I didn't want to add one more, basically, life to be like, hey, I'm responsible for you. Yeah. That was very scary to me. But eventually, I was just overworked to where I was handling all the transactions. I was getting home too late, and my quality of life started to go away. And then once I felt that slipping away, I was like, all right, now it's time to actually look into somebody. Believe it or not, it didn't happen, I think, till like my 63rd or 64th transaction.
No way.
So it made me realize that like I had to do that because I had things on autopilot pretty much, in my opinion. Whether it was truly autopilot or not, that I don't know. But it took that many deals until where I was like year 4, year 5 doing those transactions where I'm like, all right, now it's time. And the following year after that, having the first admin, it freed me up to doing a lot of transactions. And then I went up the scale. I did like 80s, I think it was like 87, and then 90 something, 90, I think it was 94. Then I hit 106, then I hit 130.
Whoa.
And then unfortunately, I digressed backwards because I did a company switch and I changed up a lot of different models what I was doing. So I'm not ashamed to say that I've been up there, and then I did the complete opposite, and I watched my business tank from it. And then once I realized my business was tanking, this is kind of the first full year back into doing the business. COVID happened, transactions just fell out my lap. Unfortunately, I lost my skills, I lost my dialogue, I lost my true passion for prospecting. Even though I was prospecting for 3 hours to maintain business, I wasn't prospecting to get more business, more follow-ups in certain aspects like that. So now I'm on track to do where I'm at. And then, I think in 3 years, I'll be back over that 100-year mark.
Yeah.
Maybe the most profitable.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that story. It's a good thing for all of us to hear that it is a cycle. You can go up and down, but you can get it back. Like you said, we don't have to be our own roadblock. and the importance of your systems. Like you said, you switched them up, and when you switched to the firms and then you changed your systems and strategies in place, you kind of felt the heat from that, but now you're back and better. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on today. If we want to send you some business or anyone's watching this, how can we do that?
Feel free to reach me at, I guess my email will probably be, my phone number. Reach out to me, 908-839-9634. I service pretty much all Central Jersey and mainly the Jersey Shore area.
Thank you so much, Rich.
Thank you, Noelle.